This is Mario Andretti, and you're listening to Fascination Street podcast.
I believe that everybody has a story, and I'm fascinated to hear them. So come with me as we take a walk down Fascination Street. Welcome back, Streetwalkers. This episode is with Phillip Greenwald. Phillip is a startup guru and an entrepreneur. In this episode, we talk about some of his time teaching at Harvard. We talk about some of the things that he taught and why he decided to get into the teaching field, and then ultimately why he decided to get out of the teaching field and back into startups. We talk about some of his startups that didn't work and how he was able to pivot them into functioning, working startups. And then finally, we talk about his newest endeavor, which is called HiWave, which is a sticker that you put on the back of your phone, and anybody, whether or not they have a sticker, can tap their phone against that sticker and immediately have any information you want them to have. Your website, your phone number, your name, your Instagram account, and as of recently, even your Venmo account information. It's a really cool product. I'm going to get one. I'm probably going to get two, one for my podcast and one for my business. So I'm super excited about it. It sounds really, really cool. And it sounds like a really cool way to not have to write a whole bunch of shit down or type a bunch of stuff when you meet somebody out there in the world. And a special shout out and a thank you to two-time previous guest of Fascination Street podcast, Ashley Arpel Greenwald, which just happens to be Phillip's sister. So thank you, Ashley. And this is my conversation with startup guru and entrepreneur and the co-founder of HiWave, Phillip Greenwald.
Yeah, talk to me, yeah.
Welcome to Fascination Street podcast, Phillip Greenwald. How you doing today, man?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I am wonderfulonium. Thank you for asking. Phillip, can I call you Phil?
Sure.
Do you prefer Phil?
Yeah. I was Phillip up until I was 15, then just started telling people, call me Phil. And I've been Phil ever since, but I go by both.
All right, cool. Well, we'll call you both.
All right. That's my new name, both.
All right, both. So, just kidding. Phillip, what I like to do is I like to talk about where people came from. It kind of helps us get an idea of how they got from where they were to where they are. But before that, I want to take the listeners on a little journey. So the way that I found Phillip, you guys, is through his sister. Now, his sister, Ashley Arpel Greenwald, has been on the show twice, and she's super cool. I love her a lot. She's the dopest. She's the kind of nice that you associate with Canada. Like, she's probably Canadian and nobody knows it. That's what I'm thinking. So, Phillip, how do you know Ashley?
It's been so long, I can't really remember.
That is awesome. I was talking to her the other day, and I was explaining to her that through no fault of yours, I have had to reschedule this thing a couple of times. And I told her that you were super gracious and really cool about it and super nice. And she was like, that's weird. He's not nice to me. And I was like, well, y'all are brother and sister. Y'all aren't supposed to be nice to each other. So there's that.
I mean, I wasn't on this call, but I'm sure she didn't mean it. And I'm glad that we're finally getting to talk. It's been a lot of build-up at this point.
Yeah, I think we've been going back and forth probably close to 2.5 or 3 months now at this point. So I apologize.
No, it's all good.
Thanks for sticking with me, man. Thanks for hanging in there. So, Phillip, where were you born and raised, man? Where'd you grow up?
Grew up split between Long Island and Manhattan. My dad lived in Long Island. My mother lived in Manhattan. And did that until the end of high school. Went to college in Nashville, then lived in Providence, then Boston, then back to New York.
So did you get frequent flyer miles for all that? You sound busy, dude. You sound like you spent your entire up until yesterday traveling.
I wish it was that exotic. I mean, you live in a place for a few years, you only have to travel there and back once. I mean, I definitely did travel a little more than that, but no, it was just a very natural journey. Went to school in Nashville. My first job was in Providence.
Why did you go to school in Nashville?
Wanted something different. born and raised New Yorker. Nashville is different.
Oh, it's different. Where did you go?
Vanderbilt.
Oh, sweet.
It was okay.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be an inventor and a computer engineer. So I originally went for computer engineering, and my goal was I was fascinated just looking out into the world where we've got dirt, we've got trees, we got plants, we got some animals. And it fascinates me that you can take a collection of what you see and somehow we can make these metal alloys and things that turn into computers. Like the fact that a computer comes from dirt and metal and all this stuff, like that people were able to put this together. I wanted to learn how you go from having all the natural stuff we see and you can create a computer. And so it turns out that you kind of learn all that in your first 2 semesters.
Really?
Yeah, and most of it's not even in your computer science courses. It's when you learn about electromagnetism in second semester physics, you learn a lot about that. Then in one of your first couple of courses in computer science, you learn about these things called transistors, and you can put these transistors together. Transistors are just ways of stopping or switching on the movement of electrons. From that, you put a few million, few billion, few trillion transistors together and you get computers. And so once I learned that, I was like, all right, I'm kind of done. I don't really want to go into work as a computer engineer. So I switched to economics.
Really? You were like, well, I learned what I wanted to learn, so now I'm going to go learn some other shit.
And I also I was so uninterested. I started doing pretty badly in my computer engineering courses. Like,
really?
I don't know that I could have made it the whole time. I became so uninterested. Once I learned that the thing I was interested, the thing I thought would be a lifelong, I thought I was going to go to college, I'd finish, and I wouldn't learn any of the stuff I wanted to about that. I thought I would never learn how the computer worked. And then to learn it in the first couple of semesters, the next stuff was operating systems and stuff like that. And over time, I've learned all of that stuff, but I wasn't interested in it every day. I had no interest in doing that in a field. So yeah, switched to economics, one of the best decisions I ever made, because economics is awesome. Even though I didn't go into that professionally either, I went back into computers.
So switching your major to economics was one of the best decisions you ever made?
Oh, yeah.
Why?
I could make an argument that the combination of micro and macroeconomics should be a fundamental course, probably even in high school. We talk about economics as if economics and finance are synonymous, right? When people say economics or the economy, generally they're talking about money. But when we talk about economics in an academic sense, we're really talking about the mathematics behind how people behave, right? By the way, if there's some economist out there who's saying, oh, my definitions are technically wrong, yeah, probably. I mean, I haven't studied the thing in 10 years, but from what I can remember, microeconomics is the study of, mathematically, how do individual agents or even small agents, households, go about making decisions. And then macroeconomics is, all right, take the whole group of those together, all the households in the country, all the people in the country, they all make decisions. What do we expect to happen? If instead of describing macroeconomics, right, in course guides and class guides as what it actually is macroeconomics, and you just put a 1-sentence description, take this class and you'll be able to understand the news, we'd have higher enrollment in economics in a heartbeat. It'd go up 100%. I don't know. But you can take macroeconomics and really understand, what they talk about on the news. It's all really makes sense. It's a really fascinating class. And I highly recommend anyone who goes to college to take macro and microeconomics.
Both of them.
Oh, yeah.
So you said that you did not go into economics when you got out of college. Oh, and also that your first job was in, did you say Providence?
Yeah. So I didn't go into the field of economics. My first job was finance related. I worked at a bank in the commercial lending department of a bank. The person who gave me all my work and me were both laid off on the same day, 6 months later. So that was when I was like, if I don't go into startup world now, I'm never going to do it. I had been teaching myself to code on and off since about 6th grade.
No wonder you were bored as shit in your computer classes.
No, but I wasn't ever great at it. I mean, I still didn't do well. I mean, I was never good at school. I was never good at school. I was always good at test taking. So high school, I didn't have great grades, but I think I did really well on the SATs. Same with college. I didn't do well until I switched to economics. And I guess I made Dean's List one semester, but that was more of a fluke. I took the right combination of classes. But so I did that first job and left, then started doing a startup. And I had seen so many people when they were about to do a startup spend 6 months searching for a technical co-founder, somebody to build the product. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to wait 6 months. I wasn't sure that I would find somebody. If I found somebody, I wasn't sure how to work with them, how that would work. So I was like, you know what? I've been learning to code on and off since 6th grade. I never actually built anything. Maybe that's not true. It's so hard to say what a thing is. But anyway, I was like, I'm going to build this thing. So I built the first startup, basically teaching myself to code. And it was the worst startup ever.
First, tell me what the first startup was, and then tell me why it was the worst one.
Okay. So at this point, I've been in startup world for a long time. And there's something that I don't know that there's a name for this thing, but there's something that everyone who's in startup world recognizes that I call the recurring startup. And that is every year and a half, the same startups that failed 2 years earlier repeat themselves.
Really?
Yeah. And every now and then they finally make it. So Uber for dog walkers, which apparently there's a successful one for the past 3 or 4 years.
Wait a minute. Dogs can't drive other dogs around in cars unless it's a Subaru. I know that for a fact.
You know what? It might be City Bike for dog walkers.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Cool. Thanks.
You know, you should have said dogs can't ride bikes either. That would have been the right response.
Well, you don't live in San Antonio. We got dogs riding bikes all over the place over here.
I gotcha. But there's these things called recurring startups, and we see them repeat themselves all the time. And so I was new to startup world. So I chose a startup that had been done 1 million times before. It's been done 1 million times since, and very few of them ever actually stick because all of us cover up our failures. So there's no evidence that these startups existed, and the newbies come and they make the same startup. And so what my startup was hire college students as freelancers so you could get cheaper rates. The idea was have a college student build your web app, have an MIT student build your web app, or have a Harvard student write you a business plan. Things like what is now called Upwork. At the time, there was Elance and Odesk, and I believe they merged to eventually become Upwork. But like freelancer sites were a big thing back then. It was like...
Is it like Fiverr?
Sort of like Fiverr. Fiverr, I think, is actually pretty awesome. I don't think Upwork is good at all, and I don't think Elance or Odesk ever were.
Yeah, fuck you, Upwork.
Yeah, complete agreement. So the only people I know who love Upwork and who use it consistently are people who learned to use Upwork after a lot of failure and now swear by it. So there are people who swear by Upwork, but even most of them will tell you they are good at Upwork. Imagine if in order to use Uber, you had to be good at it. Like there was a skill set involved in using a startup.
Oh, like social media, like TikTok or Pinterest. You have to be good at using that shit.
You have to be good at one side of it, right? You don't need to be good at viewing on TikTok. I can scroll through my Instagram feed all day. And I suppose you can make the same argument in Uber. You don't have to be good at driving a car, but you have to be competent to do part of it. But to actually use the service, you don't, right? You don't need a skill set to get into a car. And with Upwork, that's how I feel. That the only people who love it are people who have failed at it, but got good at it. I still, to this day, really hate Upwork. I love Fiverr. I think what Fiverr does really well is they boil down a lot of the things that startups need into these services where you can there's actually a high likelihood of success if you know what you want. And they're pretty cheap. So I've had a lot of success using Fiverr when I know exactly what I need. But I've had it since the first time I used Fiverr. I didn't need to learn. So freelancing was like the rage there. There was the two-sided marketplaces were just getting their groove on. And I made this thing where you could connect with MIT students and Harvard students and all of this. And there were a few reasons it failed. Well, it didn't fail. I turned it into something that eventually made money. That was a completely different startup. But that version, take your pick. One, I wasn't good at it yet. I had never run a company. I had no idea what I was doing. So there was that. Two, we found it very much harder to recruit students than we thought. That was very difficult. And then probably the most difficult thing is you need to find students at the right time. The same time, you need to find people who want to hire them to do something. But the biggest issue we had, and that I think a lot of two-sided marketplaces have, is so much stuff has to be done before you as a company can actually make revenue. In our case, we were taking commission off of completed projects. And so what had to happen? We had to recruit a bunch of student freelancers to our site. We had to recruit a bunch of people to hire them to our site. We had to make sure that the platform for them to communicate effectively worked. We had to make sure that they could describe what they were doing, that we could take escrow properly, that the students were qualified, and in most cases they were not. shocker, just because you went to a great school doesn't mean you're going to be good at working. And then after all of that work is done, we get to take a commission of that. So it's very hard to get anyone to spend money. So now imagine that if you have a marketplace, you have to, if you want to make $10, let's say you take 10%, you've got to convince somebody to spend $100. So anyway, that failed.
Yeah, it didn't fail. You turned it into something else. What did you turn it into, and what gave you the idea to do that?
I was at a networking event, and I already had it in my head that I was going to change this thing, and I had a few things up my sleeve. But I was at a networking event, and I met this woman in a parking lot. She told me she was building a website and that they had quoted her $100,000, and she had already spent like 15 or something like that. And I had become a web development, like I was really good at it at that point. At first, I was talking to her about hiring some students, and I even did some of my own math in my head. I was like, a student rate for that would be something like $5,000, and I'd make $500, and it would probably suck. And I didn't want to be making sucky products. All of my companies, I've always been somebody who makes good shit. It would be a hassle. And when all of it was said and done, I'd probably have to put so much time into managing a student that I'd walk away with minimum wage. So instead, I was just like, hey, I can probably do that for, I don't remember what number I threw out. I think I said I could do that for 20 grand, which for me at the time was like a holy shit number. And she was excited about that number. And she did that. And it ended up being a much bigger project. And then I ended up getting a lot more clients doing that, basically being a web agency. And then, by the way, when I say I'm a web agency, it's essentially me. I had a few people who worked for me a little bit, not as employees, different contractors who could do different types of code. I still had some students, and the top tier of those students worked personally for me. A few students from Tufts. The Tufts students outshine the MIT students a lot. That was interesting.
Why do you think that was?
I don't know. But when I lectured at MIT, the MIT students were all super brilliant. That's not a general statement, just like for this project.
Gotcha.
And so anyway, she wasn't technically the first customer, by the way, because I think in between the time I spoke with her and we actually signed the deal, I ended up getting somebody else to be a customer. So I was going to have to shut down. I was weeks away from shutting down and get a job. And that's fine. I was totally willing to get a job, but I wasn't against it. But I would have preferred to continue with what I had put all this effort into. But then all of a sudden I had 2 clients, and that became more clients. So I was basically building web apps for people. And this was great. Now, at the same time this happened, I had started teaching classes on coding. Specifically, I taught something called Learn to Build Twitter over the weekend, which was a course for business people or people with minor computer science knowledge. And they would go from building nothing to building Twitter over the course of a weekend. And because I had done computer science in college, I knew that college students weren't learning anything practical. And I knew that I could give them in a weekend invaluable information. So I taught my first workshop at a startup accelerator called Mass Challenge. And then after that, I taught at Tufts. And then after Tufts, I taught at Boston College. And then I was introduced to someone at Harvard Innovation Labs. By the way, this is all happening over the course of years. I made it seem like I picked up a coding book and then the next day I taught at Harvard. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it was in a relatively short period of time, but it wasn't like I picked up a coding book the next day I was there. I guess it depends on your perspective. It was a pretty short period of time.
Hey, Streetwalkers, here's a word from our sponsors.
Welcome to the Player Series. I'm Gary Player, and throughout the series, we're going to take you through incredible stories, conversations with legends and current players, perspectives on current events in and around golf, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe to the Player Series on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast.
Let's get back into it.
So I taught a workshop at Harvard Innovation Labs, Learn to Build Twitter in a weekend. This was around March 2015, I want to say. And it was the highest rated technical workshop they had ever done. So that put me on their like star list of, one-off teachers. I ended up going back to Harvard once every semester to teach a different course. So the first one was Learn to Build Twitter in a weekend. I think I taught something called the Bootstrap framework, which is this front-end coding framework Then I made another course called Learn to Speak Tech, which was essentially an hour-long thing about how the internet works. You could take this and not know anything. And then in theory, you would be able to understand what you're hiring for, what programming languages, build what apps, front end versus back end, server, client, basically buzzword breakdown. And so after doing that for a year and a half, I kept with that, even though I wasn't doing the startup anymore, I kept on teaching. And an MIT student had heard about my Harvard workshop from friends of hers. And on a Friday night, I was about to go out and I get a text saying, hey, I heard about this Harvard workshop you did. I'd love to hire you or one of your tutors. And my first thought was, wow, one of my tutors, that I have such a thing. I have a collection of tutors. I had a few TAs at the time who were just college students who had worked with me a little bit, but they kind of tough to call them tutors. Anyway, I was about to go out on a Friday night, got this message, and a new idea immediately occurred to me: learn to code by building your own product idea. So coding boot camps were all the rage at this point, and all of them, I think, make a very ridiculous claim, which is take 3 months in our coding school and become a professional coder afterwards. And I had this need to learn to code. Like, it was an actual problem I had, but not because I wanted to be a coder, but because I wanted to be a founder. And I didn't want to look for my own co-founder. So I basically immediately started this thing and did that for a while as well. I had students at MIT, at Harvard. I had several students raise a few million, get into Y Combinator. It was an awesome thing.
So what was the name of your thing? You've called it this thing like 3 times.
Oh, Code Undercover.
Gotcha. All right. So the theory behind this is learn how to build shit by building shit instead of by learning how to build shit.
Right. So everyone's curriculum would be their own product. It was one-on-one instruction where the first 10 classes would be the same for each student. And then the remaining 20 classes would be custom. Like, if your idea was Uber for cats, well, then in one lesson, you would learn how to put a picture of a cat onto a map. And so many things are actually repeat things. So putting a picture of a cat onto a Google map sounds pretty custom, but you can imagine in startup world, putting a type of marker onto a map is something that's repeated. It's not in every startup, but it's basic enough. And there was a lot of different things like that. And so did this for quite a while. And then, so my contact, Abby, who was the assistant director of technology at Harvard iLab at the time, messaged me. We had been working together for a year and a half. I mean, 1 lecture a semester for 3 semesters. And I can't remember if we were talking about doing the 4th lecture or if we were just catching up because we had become friends through all this. And she says, so Phil, I'm leaving the iLab and I think you should take my job. And it was definitely a surprise, except the first time I stepped foot at Harvard, I kind of knew I wanted to do that too. So I had heard once that Kelsey Grammer has got to be one of the most amazing salespeople ever. So Kelsey Grammer, who played Frasier, because Frasier was apparently supposed to be a 3-episode guest arc on Cheers, and he turned it into a 22-year career. And in my mind, I don't even know that I explicitly stated this to myself, but when I taught that first lecture at Harvard, I was like, this is the guest arc on Cheers right now. I'm going to work it. I know that's going to be the thing. And so a year and a half later, which was definitely sooner than I thought it would happen, she says this. And I said something really stupid. I was like, Code Undercover is doing really well right now. I just can't. And then a few days goes by and I think about it and I'm like, am I a fucking moron? Did I just turn down a job at Harvard? I messaged her back and said, hey, what would you think about me doing this part-time? And she introduced me to her boss, Chris, who was like, yeah, actually, that's what we wanted. We wanted somebody part-time. Go in, I start as interim assistant director of technology. Within 2 months, they increased my hours from 15 hours to 25 hours. Maybe it was 3 months, I don't remember. But basically immediately after that first semester, they removed the interim title. I'm assistant director of technology and then full-time. Later get promoted to associate director of technology. I also start a new department within the organization. I was put in charge of creating and managing the virtual reality and augmented reality studio there. Primarily, my main job was to teach coding and startup theory classes, but also as the lead technology advisor. So the head of advising to technology startups at Harvard, and then non-tech startups that really needed tech help. And that was my job. And it was amazing. And I love it. And I love the iLab. Shout out to them. It's an amazing organization.
How long were you there?
So I did my part-time lectures there for 1.5 years. And then I was full-time there for 2.5 years.
And then they said, get out.
No, I left. And then I've still gone back. I've taught workshops there after I left. I'll probably teach workshops there in the future. I know they shut down for a while for COVID. I was talking to some of them the other day, actually. But yeah, it really is a great spot. It was fun as hell. I loved it there.
Why did you leave?
Well, it's kind of difficult to advise people on startups all the time and not be doing your own thing.
Oh, like those who can't teach like that?
My goal in life was never to get into higher ed.
That makes sense.
Never to be a teacher. I started a coding school before that and then started teaching at Harvard. But that was never the end all be all. You know, I became the assistant director of technology at Harvard when I was only 27. So, you know, there's a weird feeling when you do startups right after college, you're effectively risking in a weird way, a lot of your professional life. Because if you do a startup that doesn't raise money for a few years out of college and it doesn't succeed, then you've effectively failed. Your resume is almost meaningless, right? Unless you can really frame it. So up until I was 27, you know, even when Code Undercover started doing well and making, there was a little while where it was making the hundreds of thousands. How do you tell that to somebody else, right? If I wanted to quit and get a job, like how do you effectively communicate that? It's difficult. So great thing about Harvard was all of a sudden it had sort of settled my first couple of years of professional life. All of a sudden now, none of that startup stuff was a waste.
Right.
And I knew it wasn't a waste at the time because I was always doing meaningful things. I was learning coding. I was learning about startup world and all that. You know, I had that resume. And so like, that's a big thing that even for people who do a startup, not even out of college, even later in life, no matter what, everyone says, oh, it's this motivation to change the world and everything. And that's a motivator for sure. But the biggest thing that keeps you moving is fear. Like, what the fuck happens if you fail? I don't know any startup founder who could be successful if they weren't constantly like afraid of what happened if they failed. Actually, I take that back. I knew one person who had a great outlook on this. I can't remember his name, but he did a talk at the iLab. I can't remember his name, but I think he was a big deal because we got a huge audience for him. And he had one line where he said, we were talking about how when he decided to do a startup, he was like, yeah, so some other people gave me some money. So there was no risk in it for me. I was like, if I fail, it's these other people's money. I don't remember if they were VCs or not, or that's a pretty callous attitude to have with a family and friend. No, it wasn't a family and friends round because he even said, he said, it's a norm to get this thing called a family and friends round. And he was like, what the fuck? Who is going into startup world where they have all these family and friends to get this kind of money from? So he's the only person. And I definitely disagree with him on that lack of fear, who I ever heard say like, yeah, so it was no big deal. I just decided to do startups. But other than that one guy, man, fear, that's a motivator.
You said that you left teaching Harvard and you still do it sometimes, but why did you leave? What did you go do after that? What did you start up?
So what it eventually became is what I'm working on now, which is HiWave, which are these stickers.
Okay, so first of all, ladies and gentlemen, he was holding up a sticker. That sticker says hi, H-I. Now, you said that you did a startup and are still doing this thing, and it's called HiWave, and it's a sticker. Well, I hate to tell you this, Philip, but stickers have been around for a really long time, so you didn't start that.
I don't buy that.
No, for real. I'm serious. What the hell is HiWave?
So HiWave is the best way to communicate face-to-face, the best way to meet people in the real world, follow up with people. It's all about the real world. Now, that sounds like it's a response to COVID, and it's actually not. We've been saying the same shit since we started in late 2019 before, lockdowns before COVID. HiWave is a sticker that you put on your phone that allows you to touch your phone to somebody else's and get their contact information.
Okay, I'm going to pause you. So for about the last 7 years, I would see cell phone commercials where people would meet and just smash their phones together and then they'd have each other's phone number, right?
Right.
Now, me personally, I've never gotten any of my phones to do that. So I think that's all hogwash and malarkey, balderdash, if you will. So tell me about how this sticker is actually going to work, and is it different than what I just told you about?
You could be referring to one of two things. So the famous one that everyone everyone, but people who can recall the first days of the iPhone and all that, there was an app called Bump. You could hit your phone against somebody else's phone and it would instantly exchange contact information. Now, Bump had some issues. It was buggy and stuff like that. But generally speaking, it was an interesting app. Where Bump failed, and one of the biggest reasons Bump failed is because both people had to have Bump on their phone. So you meet somebody who doesn't have Bump, it's done, can't exchange contact information. And I also believe Google, although I could be wrong on this, I think at some point Google bought them and then got rid of them. And I'm not sure 100% about that story, but that was Bump. And then the other one was Samsung, and maybe a few other carriers had a similar thing where you could touch your Samsung phone to another Samsung phone, not even another Android phone necessarily. So this is the first time where I have this sticker on my phone. If you have a relatively recent iPhone, if you have basically any Android, I'm going to say it's somewhere from 90 to 99% of Androids can do this. But basically, no matter what phone you have, you can touch your phone to mine without having to download an app, without having a sticker of your own. And my contact information will appear in a browser in Safari, and you can add it to your native contacts. It's whatever information I want you to have. So it can be my Instagram, email, phone number, TikTok, Venmo. Exchanging information is really just the beginning. Ultimately, there's a lot of ways where we can make connecting in the real world better. And we're starting to implement some of those now. So for example, when you meet somebody in the real world and you get their phone number, 99% of the time, you're going to forget their name and they're lost in your phone forever, because iPhones and Androids out of the gate don't have a way to look at recent contacts. You can't wake up and say, who did I meet last night, and look at the phone numbers you got. With ours, you can, even if they didn't have a sticker. That's a small way that we are making it easier to connect and remember people in the real world. That's not just information exchange, but ultimately over time, we're building out these features that make connecting with people face-to-face better. And here's the other cool thing about the sticker, and this is what gets everyone. These things are free. So if you go to our website and you order one of these, no credit card information, we send them to you, you get this, and we don't sell any of your data. So we're not a data play. We built this in response to all of the shady shit that social networks do. So we'll give you the sticker for free because we're not a business card company. We're an in-person communication company.
So the sticker that you just showed, it also says hi. It's just a different color. So the free sticker says hi?
Yeah.
What if I wanted the sticker to say something else?
If you wanted to pay for it, you could get a Fascination Street podcast sticker. And that's where we make our revenue.
Custom stickers. Okay. And is there an order limit? Do I need to order 100 or can I order 4?
25.
25. Okay. Are we talking about price or should we let them find out on the website?
It's on our website, so it depends upon the quantity, but 25 is the minimum quantity. And the more you get, the more they go down. And once you get enough, they come pretty close to $1.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's one way that your company earns revenue is customization of these stickers. And the customization that we're talking about right now is purely image related, right? We're just talking about the picture. Right?
Correct. There's some other stuff we're working on, but I can't really go into that right now.
Sure. What other way does your company make a revenue? Like how else does your company earn money?
Deals with conferences a little bit, but that's the primary way. I mean, the bulk sale of custom branded stickers is our primary one. In the future, it'll be some combination of in-app purchases, subscriptions, things like that. There's no plan whatsoever to sell data. That's just not our thing. Again, this was built in response to that whole thing. And frankly, we don't really collect that much data. The only data we collect is what we need to run the app. That is, we can't make a sticker that tells people your Instagram if you don't tell us what your Instagram is.
Right, sure.
But we're not like Facebook. We're not like, Instagram, all of these. We don't really care about your data. That's not like part of our incentive structure. We know when you pee. No, I'm just kidding.
So basically your thing is we don't care about what your information is. You just have to tell us what to put on the sticker.
Yeah.
Okay. I know you briefly ran through a list of the kinds of things that can be on that sticker, but will you hit that again? Like what would somebody put on their sticker?
I'll tell you everything they can put on the sticker right now. And we're adding more to this every day. Currently, phone number, email, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, YouTube, Venmo, and a website. So whatever your website is, you can put your website there. And we're adding more, but that's what we have now.
So just to be clear, is that a list of things that I choose from, or I can have all of that shit on my sticker?
You can have all of it, or you can have just one. Our only requirement is that you have one item on there.
At least one item.
At least one item. Our purpose is to make it so that it's easier to connect with people in the real world than it is digitally. And if you have to put all this thought into that, like, I really need to choose right now. It's only going to let me put my Instagram or my LinkedIn right now. Which do I want to put on? It kind of defeats the purpose. And there are other NFC stickers. That's the technology, NFC. There are other NFC stickers that limit what you can put on. And it's just not something we really want to do.
So is it an RFID thing? Like, how does it?
It's RFID. So NFC is a subset of RFID. It's very short RFID.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Hey, Streetwalkers, here's a word from our sponsors.
If you'd like to help find answers for the families of unsolved crime victims from all over, or perhaps identify a Jane or John Doe, please visit DNAsolves.com, where you can submit your DNA from a consumer testing company like Ancestry or 23andMe to their database. DNAsolves.com.
Let's get back into it.
Let's just say I have a sticker on my phone. And on that sticker, the information that's on there is my name, my podcast website, and let's just say my podcast Instagram. Okay. So when you tap your phone against my sticker, what happens?
Let's say I'm someone who's never heard of the sticker. I don't have the app. I'm just a random person. I'm meeting you for the first time. I tap your sticker. And actually, I think the best thing to do would be to show you. Hopefully this works well with the camera. We got our phone here. Notice I'm not in my camera, and I'm just going to take this and I'm going to touch it to my phone, and that push notification to open Safari comes up. So I'm going to hit that.
For me, since I have a Samsung Galaxy, it would just tell me to open the internet. Sort of like when I scan a menu barcode thing at a restaurant.
Yeah, similar.
Okay.
And yeah, with Samsung, it would usually open in Chrome, and I believe Samsung has their own internet browser. So usually it actually gives you a choice. Your first time, it'll say which one do you want to open it with.
Okay.
As you can see here, I've got phone number, email, Instagram, LinkedIn.
Oh, sweet. Is there a way for the person to just save all of that, or how does that work?
Yep. You can press this add to contacts button.
Oh, okay.
And that'll come up.
And so it puts all of that shit in there. It puts your website. It puts everything in there.
Yeah, it does. So we actually just today started changing a little bit of that to make it even better. So I'm not sure. Did that show everything? I think that showed everything.
I think it did.
Yeah, that's the point. And that's an added plus with ours, is that if you give someone your information, they also have a picture of you. So now your phone number becomes this more versatile thing.
Wait, so now they have a picture of me? Is there a photo on that sticker?
Not on the physical sticker, but in the profile picture.
Oh, okay. And that's something that I would have set up when I initially ordered the sticker.
So not when you order the sticker. So you just go to the site and order a sticker. We send you one to set them up. I'm sure I have blank stickers here. Here's another color. And if a sticker is blank, it's a similar thing. You touch it to your phone, and then you hit the website that comes up, and this install page comes up. And then once you set everything up, then your sticker will link back to your profile.
That's all me. I'm doing all of it, right?
Yep. And that's what our app is for.
Sure.
And it makes it really easy. It's a 2 to 3 minute setup process.
And that's done on the user end, not on the back end, right?
Right. So you'll receive a sticker that's the same. Like you can give that to a friend. That can be yours. It has nothing to do with you. It hasn't been encoded with any information.
So earlier when you said you're not data mining, you're not saving all of my data or whatever, you don't have any of it.
So if you give us your Instagram, we have your Instagram. That is saved. We have that because we need to have that in order to show it on your profile.
It just meant initially when you were like, we don't get your credit card information. We just send you a sticker. So at that point in the process, all you have is my name and my address, right?
I think we have your email and phone number. I don't know the exact checkout.
Sure. Yeah. Gotcha. Interesting. And what gave you this idea?
When I first heard about RFID in college, let's say it was around 2009. So remember, QR codes weren't really a thing. I don't know if they were a thing. I certainly had not heard of them.
Now, QR codes is that thing where I take a picture of a menu and then I get to see the menu?
Exactly.
Okay, so for the first, I don't know, 11,000 times that I tried to get one of those things to work when they first came out, I couldn't fucking for the life of me get that thing to work. I could never get it to work, and it was frustrating to the point where I didn't even try one again for probably 6 years. I didn't even try one until COVID took away paper menus. And I was like, oh, well, great. And that is a problem because I don't know if it's just me, but half the time I go to a restaurant, I don't have enough internet to open the browser with the menu on it.
Yep. And so it's funny, QR codes were considered a failed technology around the time I started at Harvard in 2016. I remember going to a few conferences and hearing people talk about the failure of QR codes in America, but how they were still used a lot in Asia and things like that. And then they made obviously a gigantic comeback in the past year or two. I guess a little longer than that now. But the thing with QR codes is they still require work. Right. So the reason we're not a QR code is that means the other person has to open up their camera. In our case, you'd have to launch the QR code on your phone with the sticker. The other person doesn't go into their camera. They literally just have their screen on. They don't need to worry about anything. It's less work. And when you're in the real world, that actually matters, right? Those little things, like they become cumbersome and they stop you from doing something.
Do I have to have internet? Do I have to have service for that to work? Could I put my phone on airplane mode and that still work?
No, you cannot put your phone on airplane mode because airplane mode by definition is turning off your phone's sensors unless you keep Wi-Fi on. But no, I believe your NFC reader turns off in airplane mode. What you can do, or a feature we're working on in offline mode right now.
Offline, that's the word I was looking for. Okay, cool. Gotcha.
That we haven't done that yet, though.
Sure.
Now you can look back at contacts afterwards.
Right, sure. Once it's saved onto your phone, then it's there forever. Well, until you take it off. So I interrupted you. You were telling me why you came up with this.
Oh, yeah. So in college, I had heard about RFID and thought this was a startup idea I never actually worked on. But I thought, why can't I go into a store and hold my phone next to any product and have a commercial for that product come up? And then I found out that basically you would have to require people to download an app first. And you would also, on the other end, need the manufacturers of stuff to put RFID tags into their product. And it's not only the downloading of the app, but you would have to have people go into the app. So what really made this possible is on Android, this has been possible for years already, if not more than a decade, I think pretty close to a decade. On iPhone, it only became popular in late 2019. Before that, iPhones had the hardware in them, but Apple had a rule that you have to be inside of an app to read an NFC tag. Around October 2019, they said, you know what? We're going to change it. If your phone is on, it's scanning NFC tags. And so that made for the first time. So like replacing the business card has been a startup endeavor for the past 10 years. That was considered one of the holy grails of startups. So what people have been trying to do for like the past 10 years, two of the pitches I've heard more often than any other are, why can't I buy a product I see on TV, right? If a celebrity is wearing something, why can't I instantly buy it? I'm not tied into entertainment enough to know if that's actually been done at this point. It may have been done and I'm just not aware of it.
I will tell you that if you have a Samsung Galaxy phone and you're looking at, let's just say, a photo of a celebrity, if you screenshot that photo, a little icon will pop up. And if you push that, then it'll tell you where you can buy that blouse.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's cool. So like lots of stuff. And I know that some places were trying to even work about making like remote buttons, like integrated into remote controls back when, everyone had remote controls. But so Apple decided, you know what, if your phone's on, it's scanning NFCs. And so now every business card app that came out over the past 10 years, the big issue was it would only really work if other people had the app. And that would stop anything like Bump from really getting to critical mass. Because what good is your business card if you're like, oh, all you need to do to take my information is go to the app store, register for this app, set up an account, and do that. It's ridiculous. You're better off with that. Now, as long as somebody has a relatively recent iPhone, I think, or Android phone. So Android, like I said, it's basically any phone from the past 10 years. iPhone, I think you have to have a phone that was created after 2017. And if it was created before 2017, you can still download a thing. But Apple is making it so people renew their phone so often. If it's a slight issue now, it won't be in a year or 2 years from now, whatever. But so now it's the first time ever where you can go out and Even if you're the only person in the world with a sticker, it still has use for you. Other people don't need to download something. And that's the first thing that made this different. So anyway, it was like 2 years ago. I was basically in bed, ready to go to sleep. And I remember reading like on Facebook, which I was scrolling through Facebook, which I really don't do anymore. So that already says a lot about what's changed. But I saw a product that was making some claim about what it could do. And I was like, this product is bullshit. It's lying. I know for a fact iPhones can't do this because I've been a fan of RFID for years. And then I Googled it, and very much under the radar, Apple made this announcement that RFID tags could do this thing now. And I was like, holy shit, this is something I'd been like 8 years ago. I said, if iPhone ever allows you to do this, this would be a game changer. Then I almost immediately said, like I was literally in bed and I thought, why couldn't I put an RFID or NFC, as I kind of was called, NFC sticker on the back of my phone and fix the business card thing? I don't consider us a digital business card, by the way. And I hate calling it that because that's ultimately not in the realm of what we're doing. I don't consider us a replacement to the business. We effectively replace the business card, but that's not a goal of ours. It's just incidental. But I thought, man, this solves that problem of if you want to give your contact information to somebody, it doesn't matter if they have the app or not. And you don't need to type something in to get it. I literally came up with it in a couple of minutes from when I heard the technology had been opened up.
Do they interfere with each other? And here's what I mean. Let's just say, I don't know, let's say I have a podcast, but that I also have a window washing company. On my phone, could I have two different stickers that don't interfere with each other?
Yes, you can definitely have two stickers that don't interfere with each other. We are trying to avoid right now the personal account and the professional account. So the way to do that would be to have two stickers, because what we don't want to do is if you have one sticker, and some of our competitors, you can do it, or I think all of our competitors.
You have competitors?
There are other companies making NFC stickers. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So some of them have personal and professional accounts, and we don't want to do that because the way we look at it, and I've spoken to people who use our competitors' product, and a lot of them bought it and then stopped using it. And part of my theory is that this can't be something you think about. And if you're thinking about your sticker, shoot, is it set to my professional profile or is it set to my personal profile? Rather than say, let me connect with this person and worst case scenario, it's the wrong profile. Instead, what you're going to say is, shit, let me connect with them the normal way because I don't know what's on my sticker right now. And so to me, that defeats the purpose. So it's not in our pipeline to do professional and personal profiles. It's just not something we want to do.
So that would be two separate stickers, right?
Yeah, you would have to do two separate stickers. You'd have to have two separate HiWave accounts.
Right. Are you against that, or do you care? Or
I'm never against people when I say hacking, I don't mean like security. I am definitely against people hacking, but I'm never against people like hacking a new way to use it, right? Like life hacking it, to be clear. Like if people discover a way to use it that's useful to them, then that means we've created something useful, and potentially it means, all right, maybe we can offer that as a monetizable service as well. So I never liked when people figure out creative ways to use something and then a company is like, oh, well, fuck that. We don't want them to use it. I'm totally up for that because, hey, maybe that helps us. Maybe we can make it a better product. So it's great.
Yeah, it's like Charmin doesn't get pissed off when your house gets TP'd.
That's a great one. Yeah.
Right? Like they don't give a shit. They just sold a lot more toilet paper. Eggland's Best doesn't give a shit if you egg somebody's house. All they care about is you bought their eggs.
Right. Exactly.
So where can people go to find out more information about this HiWave sticker? And is it called HiWave? Am I saying that right?
HiWave, like, hi, I'm waving at you.
Okay, cool. Where can people go?
Our website's the best place. So hiwave.co, HIWAVE.co. They can also go to our TikTok or our Instagram, and all of them are hiwave.co.
Okay, so all of your social media and your website is all the same thing?
I believe so. I should probably check that. I know our Instagram is, and I should probably check our TikTok to make sure of that. But yes, I'm almost positive they are all, and yep, they're all hiwave.co. I just checked.
And what about you personally, Phillip? If people wanted to find out more about you and what's on your mind?
They can go to my Instagram or LinkedIn. I think my Instagram is the Phil Greenwald, and I think my LinkedIn is, search for me.
Normally I put everybody's social media tags and everything at the bottom of the show notes. However, I will never, ever put anybody's LinkedIn in the show notes. So folks listening, if you really do want to connect with this dude on LinkedIn, you're on your fucking own. Search.
Instagram's probably better. So yeah.
Rock on. Phillip, man, the time has just flown by. As we're heading out, is there anything that I didn't ask you or we didn't talk about that you wanted to talk about today? Like, did I miss anything?
I don't think so. I think we discussed a lot of stuff. I would tell everybody, go make a friend in the real world. That's my request for everyone. And but yeah, this was fun. I'm glad we did this.
Me too. I'm so glad we finally did this. I think your product sounds dope as balls. And I will be ordering 2 separate stickers because, yes, I do have a window washing company. And those customers who want my phone number and my email address don't give a flying shit about my podcast. So I will be getting 2 stickers and I'm going to become part of the HiWave team. All right.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
Okay, great. Well, Phillip Greenwald, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day and your hectic COVID-filled schedule to hang out and let us get to know you a little bit better, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. It was great talking to you. I'm glad Ashley introduced us.
Who? Oh, yeah, her. This was a lot of fun, and I can't wait to gauge people's reaction when this episode comes out.
All right. Great. Sounds good.
All right, rock on. Well, hey, man, thank you again. I appreciate you taking the time, and I'm super excited to get some of these stickers, man. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it.
You have a great rest of your week, man.
You too.
Hey, and tell your sister I said, what's up?
Will do.
Thanks, Phillip.
Awesome. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Have a good one. Bye.
Opening music is the song Magnolia from the 2001 album Intransigence, used with permission from Douglas Miles Clark. Closing music is from the song Say My Name off the 2021 album Underdog Anthems, used with permission from Jax Hollow. If you like the show, tell a friend. Subscribe and rate and review the show on iTunes and wherever else you download podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. All the episodes are available there as well. Check me out on Vero at Fascination Street Pod and TikTok at Fascination Street Pod. And again, thanks for listening.